All right, today I am joined by Jim Hoft from Gateway Pundit to go over some of the biggest stories in the news. Jim, thank you so much for coming on again.
Good to be with you, Stephen. Good to see you.
So, since our last time on, we've almost lost President Trump. We've almost lost Biden. He's dropped out of the race. Suddenly, Kamala Harris is the most ingenious Democrat ever birthed on planet Earth. And Trump is shifting up his strategy in order to pummel her into the ground. Wanted to go through some of the big stories with you. Let me read something to you from Elon Musk. He said, the Democrat Party goal is to disenfranchise U.S. citizens by importing as many illegal immigrants as possible. Given the influx of illegals from every country on earth, 2024 will probably be the last election actually decided by U.S. citizens. That is a sad thought, but I believe there's some truth to that. What are your thoughts on Elon's words?
It's refreshing to see Elon, come around the past 4 years. Definitely, he's certainly had a mind change. The other day, he said part of that was because he had a son who turned into a daughter and transitioned, and how that affected his life. Which is understandable, but regardless, he's really waking up. And after Trump got that shot in the head by that would-be assassin, Elon Musk publicly announced that he was going to support Trump, and he was going to start sending him over $40 million a month to ensure that he became president. I think that's a good investment for Elon, and the left understands this. Of course, they've been investing in elections and all their trickery for a long time, and they have a pretty good system built up. I think Elon's exactly right. If Trump doesn't win this time, I think on a whole bunch of levels, America's in severe danger. And I say that as someone who's been a victim of some of the tactics they're already using, these tyrannical tactics they use to destroy any opposition, anyone who stands in their way. What they've done to Trump, it's really an act of God's mercy that Trump is where he is today, not only because he survived a shooting by the twist of his neck just a moment before the shot landed and winged by his face, but all of the lawsuits that he's still standing. It's really unbelievable. And this is the left. This is the modern day left. Do we think that they're going to ease up if they win the next election? And I think the only way they can win is through their trickery and all of these voters who aren't supposed to be voting, that they're signing up, and that they can dip in and throw them in the ballot boxes at the last minute, or put them in the mail, which is even easier. So I think he's right. And I think America's in grave danger because of the Democrat Party and because of the weakness of the Republican Party.
Yeah. Weak men are just as dangerous as strong men because they allow things to happen. I see a couple of different ways that Elon's words ring true. Number one, they could actually, sign these people up and have them voting. So we have people from China deciding what you and I, want. We have people from Mexico, from Venezuela, from Russia, from Saudi Arabia, all over the world. They're flooding in. So that could happen. Another way could be, oh, wait a minute. Now there's so many bodies that we can get away with printing more ballots and stuffing more ballots into the system overall. And then lastly, just based on how our government does the census, they could come back and say, well, they're not citizens, but they are human beings. There's a lot more Democrats that need to be in the House of Representatives. And so therefore they take over the House and get more representation, and then fundamentally change America. I just see so many different ways that flooding the country benefits them and hurts Republicans.
Oh, absolutely. And we also know that every Democrat in Congress, except maybe one, voted to have illegals allowed to vote in the elections. I mean, that's unheard of. 20 years ago, none of them would have admitted to that. None of them would have been for that idea. Today, they're all for it. And it's complete lawlessness. So next election, what does that mean? You can just get people from Canada who identify as American, and they can start voting in our elections. People from China, from Bolivia, can throw in ballots. I mean, that's where we're going. It's really, Rush Limbaugh said before he died, this was in 2020, and he said Democrats are done with elections. They're tired of going out there and lying to the American public about what they're going to do every 4 years. They just want to be in charge, and they're done. They're finished with the elections. Boy, was that quite a statement, because then we saw everything that happened on election night in 2020, and then we saw all of the FBI behind the scenes cleaning up after the Democrats after the election. And now we're moving into this new election where there's 10 million new voters for the Democrat Party. And whether they vote the actual illegal immigrants or someone votes for them, it's still 10 million ballots that Democrats can fill out and stuff them in any state they need to. So I think Republicans are fooling themselves. Kamala Harris is an idiot. Everybody knows it. She certainly doesn't belong where she is. And there's a lot of truth. If she was, of a different race, she certainly wouldn't be getting the perks she gets because she's an absolute clown. She can't even talk. I mean, none of it makes sense. It's gibberish. And yet she could win this election because of, the Democrats are pretty confident with the system they built up that includes mail-in ballots, ballot drop boxes, election months, that goes on. And these things all help. They're all easier to cheat that way. And this is where we are as a country now. And again, thanks to weak Republicans.
Yeah, I know a big story that the Gateway Pundit covered was, remember this truck driver who said, I brought a semi truck full of pre-filled out ballots down, I believe, to Pennsylvania, and it disappeared. And there was this huge press conference. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer was put in charge of investigating. They found everything to be true. They just couldn't produce the trailer. So they had witnesses, they had testimonial, they had tracking, all of that. And then 3 years later, the United States Postal Service says, actually, yeah, we have complete records that this is a true story, but we also don't have the trailer. So everybody should just move on. Nothing to see here, just a giant semi truck full of pre-filled out ballots going from one state to a state where Donald Trump was losing. Nothing to see here. I'm sure you remember that story.
Well, absolutely. And I know Tony Schaefer well. I don't know if you've interviewed him yet. He's really interesting, very bright person. He told us that Bill Barr called him and started screaming and said, you need to drop this investigation. That's from his mouth. We reported on that at Gateway Pundit. So again, it's not just that these Democrats are cheating. It's not just that they're bringing ballots across state lines, trailerfuls, but it's that the FBI was not curious at all. And actually, the DOJ was behind the scenes making, playing cleanup. It's absolutely disgusting. I don't know why they would do that. I don't see the benefit that helps the country when you have stolen elections. But, our elites think that was the right thing to do at the time. And, God have mercy on their souls, because it's I don't even know how they sleep at night, some of these people, with some of the antics they pulled. I mean, Stephen, do we know if any investigation was ever done on why these 5 battleground states all stopped counting at the same time? Was there ever an investigation? Was there ever any eyebrows raised by the DOJ or FBI? We have no idea. None of these things that we reported on from Gateway Pundit, was there a thorough investigation, including, let me just add this, including we broke this story about GBI Strategies in Michigan. This was a group that was signing up, I say signing up, in air quotes, registrations for voters in 2020. And they sent a package to Muskegon County in Michigan of 10,000 new registrations in a county that only had 30,000 eligible voters. Of course, this raised a red flag. 8,000 of those ballots registrations were thrown out, but they were doing this in every state or in every county in the state or I should say several counties in the state. They were sending packages of these fake registrations. So what happened with that? That investigation was turned over to Dana Nessel, the Attorney General, who turned it over to the FBI. And guess what? Nothing's ever been said since that time. It was conveniently swept under the rug. No one's been arrested. These were thousands of fake registrations that were turned in. No one has been held to account. So we see this over and over and over. Yeah. And I hope Americans are aware of what's going on.
Yeah, like the way you're saying that is like, this is the Oprah Winfrey model, right? Like, you get 10,000 registrants, you get 10,000 registrants, you get 10,000. And if they happen to throw out some, who cares? Collectively, all we need is like 10,000 to beat Donald Trump and also make it not look like we just rigged the system, right? So absolutely a shame what's going on. You and I have not spoken since the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. You know how close it was. I know how close it was. What was your initial reaction when you heard the words, you know, that the president had been shot? And what was your reaction in the days after as more and more damning details have come out?
Yeah, so I was on the phone talking to a couple acquaintances, and all of a sudden my phone starts pinging. All these people trying to contact me, they're saying Trump's shot, you know, and I'm like, wow. So I immediately get on, I see what has happened, and I was terrified. I think most Americans, when they first heard this, and then I watched the video, and then you're not really sure what's going on. You don't know how hurt he was, and so it was a horrible moment. And but then, you know, you see him stand up and start pounding his fists, screaming, "Fight, fight, fight." We've never seen anything like this. I mean, and he turned his head at the right moment where it winged his ear, but didn't take his ear off, or didn't take his jawline off, you know, or blast into his eyeball. So it was an act of God. I really just think we're living in a time with this president, with all of his flaws, but it's just so historic. You know, Donald Trump will go down in history, and hopefully there'll be some books that will be written about him fairly. But he has been just such a giant on the stage in human history now. I mean, he's just it's this attempted assassination was just I mean, it's just unbelievable. And of course, we know it's not the first time this has happened. We know a British kid tried to get into a Trump rally and take the gun from a security guard in Las Vegas. This was a few years ago, and he was arrested. He was trying to kill Trump, and you know what happened? He got 11 months in prison, 11 months, and then they sent him back to the UK. I mean, what is going on? So I'm very thankful that Trump is alive. I'm thankful that he wasn't seriously injured. My heart goes out to the people who were. I haven't heard anything about the two individuals who were, you know, hit with bullets. We know the one person died, the fire chief, but the two others, I haven't heard anything about that. But then you start hearing all of these different stories, and we sent two reporters down to Butler, actually two attorneys who work for us. They went down there. They wanted to go investigate, and they found all kinds of things. They talked to several of the people who were there, the people who were screaming at the FBI and screaming up to the Secret Service and the officials saying, "Hey, there's somebody on the roof, somebody on the roof." You know, they think it was much different story than what the media is saying, what the officials are saying. Chris Wray today goes in front of Congress, and he's, you know, he's not going to give a lot of details. It's same old Chris Wray. There's so many questions still. And the fact, though, that they were watching this individual from a window about 40, 50 feet away, they saw him slide up the side of the roof, pull out this big gun. Of course, he had to carry this gun up with him when he's crawling up this roof. And they waited till he got 8 shots off before they shot him dead. I mean, it's just unbelievable that this would happen. And of course, most people think it was an inside job. I think more and more people would believe that because the FBI is not giving us the absolute truth. The Secret Service certainly haven't. And so I just think more and more people are going to believe that this was something that it looks like more people were involved than not. We also heard this story from Heritage Oversight Group that several people had visited this Crooks, this name of this kid Crooks, before he attempted the assassination, and one of the people they tracked back to D.C. next to the FBI building. So there's just several questions. And how is this kid building bombs when they said he never looked up how to build bombs? You know, he might be a smart kid, but how does that happen? So it's just very strange. A lot of questions still.
Oh yeah, many questions. On the one hand, we're told, oh, he's got a van full of explosives and a detonator. On the other hand, they're saying, oh yeah, that's the guy who rode his bike here. Like, no, he didn't fly a drone. Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, said, yeah, he did. It appears he was mapping the whole location. Christopher Wray also revealed one of the last Google searches on his laptop was, how far away was Lee Harvey Oswald when he shot Kennedy? Now, we now know that's not true, but that's what this guy was looking up. So it kind of begs the question, was he being groomed by somebody connected to the FBI or monitored? Either way, we need to know the truth of that. But, when you find out that multiple FBI agents were involved in a fake kidnapping plot of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, you really start to go, okay, wait a minute. The FBI faked and interacted and groomed a group of people to commit a heinous crime. Then you find out there were FBI agents planted in the January 6th commotion and chaos. That's really suspicious. Now you find out the person who's had the closest attempt on a president's life since Ronald Reagan was interacting with somebody connected to the FBI, possibly. Like, something's not adding up here. And the fact that, you have this second story roof behind where you could literally see the guy if you wanted to, was nobody there? Were they not watching? I've been reading that some of the agents went indoors because it was just too warm. Like a dereliction of duty because you were too warm. Like, I don't know. I really hope that we get to the bottom of it. Do you think it was the right move for Congress to say, hey, we're going to set up a bipartisan community to investigate this because we don't trust the Secret Service and the FBI?
Those bipartisan committees don't generally come up with anything. They've been a bust historically. So, I don't know if that's going to do anything. But of course, is the FBI going to investigate itself? That isn't going to happen either. It's just, I'm not sure if what the right move is at this point, but I think the most information we're getting is from internet sleuths who are putting things together. And, we also talked to a doctor, our 2 attorneys who went to Butler. They talked to this emergency room doctor, who's actually a friend of mine, this doctor. And she's worked in the emergency room for 20 years. And so she's seen, deaths, gunshots, things like that. And she was saying that even if this kid got hit, first of all, his head probably would get blown apart because of a bullet that far away. And it wouldn't have just gone right in here, in his forehead. and there would have been a much bigger, trail of blood or splat or something. It's something I don't completely understand, but I mean, it's suspicious things like that it makes you wonder what's going on. And then the fact that we know today, I mean, this is the one thing we do know, is that you can't trust the FBI to give you all the details. Another incident I was just thinking of, my friend Pamela Geller was holding an event in Texas a few years ago, and it was about the Muhammad cartoons. And what happened was two individuals drove from Arizona over to this gathering that Pamela had organized. And Pamela speaks out against radical Islam. And they got out of the car and they started shooting. With some guy there shot them dead before they could kill anyone. But we found out a year or two later that the FBI was involved in that too. And yet they didn't tip anyone off as they're coming across the state lines to shoot up a gathering where my friend Pamela was involved. So again, it's just time and time again. Why would you trust the FBI? I have no idea why you trust that group at this point. And plus the fact that we saw what they did to 1,400 Americans. They've stormed their homes. Maybe not all of them, but hundreds of them. They've stormed their homes. They bring in all this military equipment into their neighborhoods. They scare the heck out of their kids. They arrest the father or the mother and drag them away and put them in prison. And for attending this rally that Trump went to, where Pelosi refused to bring in the National Guard. It was Pelosi's insurrection. If the National Guard would have been there, none of that would have happened. But, we get the same BS from, the media and the left, and they blame it all on Donald Trump, and these poor individuals are still in prison. Hundreds of them, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Oh gosh. The biggest buzzword right now is Kamala Harris, right? I think they are trying to use every connection they have in the media to make her look like the best choice, that she's a genius, that Hollywood's behind her, the elites are behind her. She is the one to beat Donald Trump. And yet, I don't know. I just can't tell if this is like a honeymoon bump. We've already, James O'Keefe has already debunked this 81 million she raised is a bunch of fake placed money coming in through Act Blue. And so anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts. Joy Reid of MSNBC said, if people of color don't vote for Kamala Harris, they're going to look crazy. Isn't this just a way of rephrasing Biden's comment that if you don't vote Democrat, then you ain't black? And why are we suddenly voting for people based off their skin color and not the content of their character after fighting for civil rights for decades?
Well, that isn't how the Marxist world works, does it? And Kamala Harris has nothing in common with the black community. She's never, I put up a post this morning, just a reminder, when she was the Attorney General in California, she was keeping all these black men in prison longer than their release dates, because it was good for the state. They could use these guys for cheap labor, like $2 a day or something. There was hundreds of men she was doing that with, black men. So it's like, is she really for the black men and women? I don't think so. She's not for the community there, the black community. She never has been. She doesn't relate to them. She's married to a white guy. She's got white kids. I mean, her whole story, is this the type of BS they're going to push on us? I guess so. I can't imagine Kamala, who I think she got 1% of the primary vote in 2020. I can't imagine that they're going to fall for this is such a great candidate. I don't know how she holds up, because in however old she is, 50, 55, she still has not been able to stop laughing, her nervous laugh, even at this age, when she's been in front of the camera for, hundreds and hundreds of interviews. She still has that cackle, that laugh, that nervous laugh that that comes out in all of her interviews. So I can't imagine, as people take another look at Kamala, that they're going to think that she's much better than Joe Biden. So, but the Democrats seem pretty confident with their apparatus as far as creating manufacturing votes. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who she puts forward as the vice president pick. But, she still has to win the nomination from the DNC. And, she's not being backed by Obama. She's not being backed by some of the big names that are really important, the elites. As Biden said, the elites are trying to push me out. I don't for a minute believe that he stepped down on his own. I believe he was either threatened, blackmailed, or coerced to step down. Of course, we may never know the truth about that. But what about Kamala Harris? Her first chance to show foreign policy, her ability to interact with a foreign government leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, and she literally, they publicly announce that she's refusing to meet with him. Is that in order to save face with the Muslim community, where they need votes in Minnesota and Michigan? Is that about standing with the BIPOC community that maybe feels that they don't have a connection to Israel? What are your thoughts on this? Because Benjamin Netanyahu immediately said, "Get me to Donald Trump. I want to talk to a true leader in America." What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I think it's disgraceful for what the Democrats have done. I do think Obama's behind this. I covered Obama quite a bit, of course, when he was in president. And there's pictures of Obama with Netanyahu, and you can see the just rage in Obama's eyes. He does not like that man. And I don't think he likes Israel much. And this is, I think, the Obama policies coming through. And it's what we've seen since October 7th, when that horrible attack took place. The left has really just fissured, and we're seeing the two sides, the pro-Israel side with very prominent Jewish Americans, and then the pro-Hamas side, or pro-Palestinian, that is very much wants nothing to do with Israel. So the party is completely splitting, but this is Obama behind that, that Kamala wouldn't meet with Benjamin Netanyahu. And shame on them. It's disgusting, after what Hamas did to that country, that they're going to get in and try to make the Israelis go easy on the Palestinians and the Hamas community. That's insane. I think they should have been wiped out. I don't know what Israel can do right now. And when I say wipe out, I don't mean the whole population. I trust, that they're trying to take out the Hamas leaders. I don't know that for a fact. But I do know also that Hamas is the ones who are releasing all these numbers of fatalities, and of course they've been caught in several lies already. But the Democrats, it looks like they're abandoning Israel. And a friend of mine, a good friend who's Jewish, he said the younger kids now who are Jewish, because they've seen what's going on campuses and stuff, they're flocking to the Republican Party. The older Jewish voters are still hanging tough with the Democrats, who hate them, right? So it's just another weird development, and good for Netanyahu to going down to Trump. And that's why our country and the world needs Donald Trump, because the left has lost their mind.
Yeah, they have. Well, I know you're a busy person. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put a direct link to your website, gatewaypundit.com, so that people can go follow you and check that out. Thank you so much for staying on top of the biggest stories, helping us understand them. You guys seem to get leads and insight that nobody else is getting, and that's why I appreciate you guys as a news source. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Stephen. Great to be with you. Appreciate it.